Welcome back, everybody. We are with Sheriff Carpinelli again. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Yeah, anytime. Open invite. We wanted to get you in and kind of pick your brain about the current state of New York, what's going on. A lot of craziness, a lot of uproar, a lot of stuff in the news lately. So thought, why not get an expert in here who's got his finger on the pulse?
So-called.
Nick is here. Welcome, Nick. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll just start where we kind of started off camera talking about the kind of the prison crisis, I guess is a good way to put it. Can you just kind of give us talk to me like I'm 5? I don't know. Just being from the outside of it, I don't know like the proceeding, kind of the build up to this, what's been going on with the prison strikes. Is that something that you can just kind of lay out for us?
Yeah, I definitely can put some insight to it. Unfortunately, there started to be, as you know, after COVID and with some of the political rhetoric, manpower for a lot of the jobs in the corrections and police officer field started diminishing. Mm-hmm. People weren't coming to the job. It also affected the corrections aspect and part of it in the state of New York. And as manpower went down, manpower hours went up, overtime hours went up, and correctional officers started getting mandated to work longer hours. Then on top of all that came along some ridiculous legislation called the HALT Act, which stands for the Humane Alternative to Long-Term Incarceration. That was brought on by an individual who also, which makes no sense, even though some people on the other side think it does because he spent time in a facility, for murder. This person pushed forward this legislation that became the HALT Act. And basically what they're talking about is that they want to be able to put people in solitary confinement that have been disorderly, disruptive, violent, and they no longer allow them to do that. So it's created a bad atmosphere for the correctional officers to try to do their job in a safe manner.
Yeah, it's a bad equation.
Yes.
Seems like altogether like a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Starting, you said around COVID time?
Yes. And then as it progressed here, assaults on the officers started rising, and on inmates as well, too. Inmate on inmate.
Yeah.
It did not create a good environment at all. And this was the year, that breaking point finally happened for the correction officers.
Interesting. So now we're 5 years removed, really, from COVID times and all of the issues that kind of brought around policing, and then George Floyd uprisings, that kind of stuff. And now it's cultivating through the HALT Act to where we are today, where corrections officers have had enough.
Right.
And so that's still ongoing.
Still ongoing.
Okay.
It's gotten worse instead of better. Yes, I mean there has been some assault on some of the inmates that's been questionable by a few, and I think unfortunately, I'm not condoning that whatsoever. But people have to take into effect also that the hours that these correctional officers have been working, the mental instability is created upon them, the breaking point of where their patience level runs out, and it causes people to do things that they normally wouldn't do on both sides.
Yeah. You, in a job like that, you have to have officers that are well rested, on top of their game, that mentally alert, and it just lends to everything else. It lends to irritability. It lends to impatience. It's just a lot of bad things. It's like, turns out rest is kind of important.
Seems like it seems like a vicious cycle. What would be the longest? Is there like an outline for the longest shift that they're allowed to order a corrections officer to work?
On that,
is there a limit?
That's a good question.
Currently on that, I don't. I don't know. I know that for me, I can't put my guys past the 16 hours.
Right, and I've heard of like 24-hour shifts. I've heard 32-hour shifts.
24 to 36-hour shift is normal for these correctional officers anymore. Normal.
And there isn't I've heard that sleep is not incorporated into these shifts. Like they don't have rest quarters where you go and get 8 hours, but you're there in case they need you. Like that's not a thing. Is that true? Do you know?
It is true. I'll tell you what they've been allowed to do. Some of my what we're told by also was that they would be able to leave the facility for 2 hours, go home, take a shower, see their family, and get back to the job.
So no
That's
sleep.
Crazy.
Basically 36 hours with no sleep, which is almost like humanly impossible, you would think,
Right.
to function at hour 32 in an altercation. Like, it just seems like a common sense issue.
It's a recipe for more error.
Unfathomable.
There's two words you said, Nick, that we know doesn't exist down in Albany. So,
Whoops.
So.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that was true, because that is the craziest part to this entire issue. I feel like making somebody work that long, it just does not seem, that's incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Just there's no words for that. Like, how are they expecting that?
And then also expecting them to be at their highest level at all times.
And to have that restraint, or to have the,
Sure.
the wherewithal to, be alert, and also, try to diffuse something instead of, in a different manner,
Yeah.
And, okay, so then what has the response been from the state? Like, why is there no progress? Why is this still going on?
It's a couple of things. It's not about a contract with money. It's nothing to do with that.
Okay.
And that was, I guess, one of the misconstrued things that was coming out of the conversation before. I know that I had done something on Facebook page, and somebody said, I mentioned contract. What I meant when I said contract, I meant for the governor to sit down with these guys and work out a contract, an agreement to something, to get them back inside, to get them back to work.
Okay.
Nothing to do with monetary things. It's all about the safety of the officers, as well as the safety of the inmates that are, conforming to the rules and regulations of the system. And it's about having the ability to do the job in a safe manner. And the HALT Act has taken away a lot of that for them to professionally do their job, where they can have to show restraint, to show order when somebody becomes violent or even just wants to just be disruptive. They need to be able to exercise their authority and the tools they have to use that. At this point, they don't really have any of those things.
Yeah, so that would be a huge reason to go on strike. Just that alone. Like, you need to be able to perform your job with the tools you're given at an effective level. And if you can't do that, then it's your safety now. Because now you're constantly thinking about, what can I do? What can't I do? How's this going to be perceived? All of those things shouldn't even be in your mind. It should just be, what am I allowed to execute here? And do that.
Right.
Without hesitation.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is.
Do you know if there's been an adjustment in training with this new method of corrections? Or are they expecting them to just wing it and get it right? Because there's a set of rules that they have in place. Mm-hmm. When they get the job, they are specifically trained on how to enforce those rules and what methods they're allowed to do. And I feel like if you change the rules of the game, the state is then obligated to change the training to make sure they're prepared to carry out the new set of rules.
Right.
I'm assuming that with like the amount of government inefficiency that we know exists, I'm guessing that didn't really happen, or it was like, here's the new set of rules, you must comply. Oh, and here's a quick couple training videos. Like, that would be my best guess at what happened
with the least amount of help to do it.
Yeah, like, do you have any idea on that? Like, it just seems wild to make them operate. How do you can't just give them new rules and then not help them, not retrain them, essentially.
What do you do when you have, it's the same with us. When you have people on a job that have been there for 15 years doing it one way.
Yeah.
And you've also been used to a certain a type of society or individual, and you know what they're thinking, or you know how they are. When you get a new bunch of people that have no regard for life or the respect of other, no respect for other human beings, and then you have to try to keep order within a facility with the least amount of manpower, and you're outnumbered by the other guys, and then to top that off with lack of sleep, lack of mental, acuity to it and stuff, and this is what happens, unfortunately. So,
Yeah. It's not an assembly line job that you can just go through the motions.
No.
Yeah. Do people understand that aren't in it? I wonder sometimes. Feels like not so much.
Unfortunately, we tend to listen to the only media outlets that we have. And a lot of the media outlets are not giving the whole story. That's the problem. And I realize there's two sides to every story, just as the inmates have a side to theirs too. And what I'm seeing is more of, I don't know how they're doing it, but they're seeing more of the inmates are getting a say in this than the correction officers are. And what they're doing with the last two incidents where an inmate has died in the custody of the dock system is they're right away, villainizing the officers before there's even a trial. And then they're talking to inmates that are inside the facility that hate the officers already, and they're taking their word for gospel before there's even a trial or investigation,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can we just like take a step back real quick, and would you mind painting a picture of exactly what's going on as far as the seeming lawlessness that the HALT Act has caused in prisons? Like, I don't know that people realize. So you could go online and you can find videos of security footage of what's happening in prisons, but would you mind describing the kind of things that have been happening for the last couple of years?
Yeah. I've had a bunch sent to me in the last week and a half. It's just, besides what we see in some of our informational things that we get from the state of New York when they put out, an incident of what happened, but it's violent. They'll show an officer escorting a prisoner from one part of the facility to another, and when the opportunity comes, the prisoner attacks that correction officer. I mean, I don't mean just takes a quick swing. I mean, they're attacking them to kill them, and to seriously hurt them, and this occurs, like you said, when they're moving from one place to the other, and a lot of the time there's usually only one correction officer, with this individual. You think that would be enough, but if you knew the violent behavior of the inmates, what they did, where they came from, why their mentality is that way, you realize, why wasn't there 2 or 3 guys escorting this gentleman, this person?
Yeah. You've got staffing issues and all the other.
Yeah. So basically we're talking, like you were saying, inmate on inmate violence, inmate on officer violence. And we're talking somehow grabbed a spork from lunch and figured out how to put it in someone's eye kind of violence. Like really, really bad stuff. People dying, people getting seriously hurt, officers, inmates alike, like real hellish violence.
Yeah.
Just to give people a perspective of why it's so important that this issue is fixed.
And what people don't realize is that, these individuals are inside that jail, the prisoners, for 24/7. They have all that time to think about how to pick a fight, how to start a fight, finish a fight, how to turn a toothbrush, how to turn a roll of paper, simple newspaper, into a device that can be used to stab somebody, stab an inmate to death or stab a correctional officer to death. And this is what they're up against in there. It's sad. And then on top of that, too, guys, with some of the loosening of the laws and the restrictions that the correctional officers are working on, there's more drugs, slipping through the cracks into the facilities. And when the inmates get high, that's not a good thing. Not a good thing.
Yep.
So this has become national news, really. You go on all the major news networks; they're talking about this with the governor and with the strikes going on. I'm just kind of scrolling through Yahoo now, and it's actually all over Yahoo. Is this the kind of thing where? I mean, there was reports about the National Guard, and that kind of got national attention too. And then it starts to get real messy. Is there a pathway forward that you think would be the right way to manage this?
Well, I wish my opinion mattered more and got to all these years, but when that happens, when I put a little humor to this, right?
Yeah.
Well, just listen. On a side note, I do have a loved one in the National Guard right now that's inside one of those facilities. That's how I also know a lot of what's going on. I also have some friends that are part of the union, and they are correction officers in there, and this whole thing could be stopped right now if the governor would literally let go of her ego, let go of that power trip control she feels she has to have, and understand if she truly cared about she says she cares about the inmates. Listen, she should be caring about the correctional officers, number one, but if she claims that she cares about the inmates and their safety, then let's get this resolved quickly. One thing could be just stop the HALT Act, just done. Call it off. Go back to the drawing board. Restore the manpower. She's already closed, a number of facilities. Well, the smart thing to do would be take the most violent of the criminals we have in these facilities. Let's put them in 2 facilities. Let's maximize the manpower into those facilities, and then you'd have a less of a risk of, I think, injuries, a less risk of a riot if you had the best of the best on the correction officer side in with these bad guys. But that's common sense.
So what's holding that back? Just
right.
politics?
Don't know. Yeah.
I think people would wonder why there's a staffing issue in the first place. Like the HALT Act, why did it need to include reduced staffing? What did that have to do with inmate safety or halting? What was it? HALT. What was the?
Yeah, HALT. Right.
Humane.
The humane alternative to long-term incarceration.
Yeah. What did reduced staffing have to do with that vision?
Was that a byproduct of just the time, or was that part of the act?
It was part of the governor's plans in closing down the different prison systems. I mean, I'll tell you again, there's no secret, even to the county jails. If they could reduce the county jails as well, they would do it and have 2 centralized jails in the state of New York. And has there been talk of that? There sure has.
For what purpose?
To just to push their Albany's agenda or the I want to say again, here we go, with the left side.
I would assume having 2 prisons for everyone, there would be not enough room for everyone, and therefore there'd be tons of leniency in the law. Is that the idea? Do you think?
Yeah, they're trying to say that by having the laws that are in place now, where you're not doing times for you're not for misdemeanors and violations and lesser crimes, that you don't need all these facilities. Well, we see how that's working out for us in society right now. I mean, New York City, look at it, it's out of control. Any major city you look at right now has got a lot of problems. Rochester, Buffalo,
sure.
Syracuse. I mean, let alone look what just happened down in Sagertown Mall.
Yeah, right.
People think that's one of the safest malls to go. Nothing happens there. And this wasn't a shooting that just took place in a bathroom and everybody. It was out in the open.
Right.
People standing right there.
Right.
Yep. And these are the kind of brazen individuals that we have back out there that are, as they say, come into the system and then go right back out again. They're not there, not doing their time. Mm-hmm. That's a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll say. It doesn't make me feel that much safer. Did some of this precursor, like I would say, there's a lot of individuals that you would classify as needing to be in a corrections facility that were basically just let back out on the street with the cash bail issue that went on. Why do these policies not look to the people imposing them, as crazy as they are? Like here, let's just downplay felonies. Let's make sure that we can get people back out on the street. What's the purpose?
Before we were talking off the mic, we were saying that unfortunately, there's a far more sinister, a goal behind this. And when I say that, you have to have a time where there's outright no, what are you going to say, justice. There's no normal behavior. Yeah. It's just an all-out free-for-all in society.
Yeah.
And people don't know what to do, and they become I'm trying to think. They become callous. The feelings become numb. Bad guys get worse and more emboldened. And who do they turn to? You turn back to the government again? I mean, it's and then what kind of government are you going to get when it gets to be that bad? What kind of protect? What's it going to look like? I don't know. I say that I don't understand why they want to do this in the state of New York when you've seen how it's played out in other states. I mean, look what happened in California. That should be an example right there. Let's go even further back and earlier. Colorado. Mm-hmm. They ruined parts of Colorado with the same kind of mentality. And it's horrible. It's just horrible.
At some point, the pendulum swings. Is that I don't know what. Either there's somebody behind the scenes pulling the strings, because it seems like these policies on paper, anybody with half a sense would be able to say that's going to be a problem.
Right.
That's going to make it worse. And then downstream effects, like you were talking before, law enforcement can't do their job. They're handcuffed already. Then they don't know what they're allowed to do. Well, then they're second guessing themselves. Well, then they don't want to be in the job anymore. It's a big reason why I left.
Right.
And then downstream of that, okay, now that department has to fill a spot. or 10 spots or 15 spots. Same in corrections. It's the same thing. And then you've got guys working too long. It's a recipe for disaster. They're too tired. They're too strung out. They're too overworked. The job requires too much focus. And what do you expect is going to happen?
Disaster. And to piggyback on what you're saying, not only does it affect the officer, but they have to go home.
Yeah, right.
Then what happens? And then the same person has to go out, in society to the grocery stores, to the malls, to the restaurants. Then what happens? And it's just a terrible thing all the way around. It needs to stop. Back to the National Guard real quick. When she decided to do that, I understand there has to be, order has to be kept. 100%, we all get that. But to bring in the National Guard, that is the younger people that have never been exposed to the violence, the mentality, the social structure within inside a prison, and how they act. Big mistake. Big mistake. These kids are in shock.
Of course.
And they are scared, as they should be. Thank goodness they are scared. They're not just walking around thinking they're tough guys because they're Army, or military people. Listen, inmates don't give a damn what you wear, where you come from, And so it's a bad mix. And I hope that nothing bad comes out of one of them, because if it does, let's hope it doesn't happen. But I think this should be the undoing of Governor Hochul. But I'll say this. We've seen it before. Right. We've seen it with Mr. Cuomo, and we lost thousands, if not maybe more people from decisions he made, and now he's getting ready to run for New York City mayor, and I bet you he gets elected. As crazy as it sounds, that
was probably the craziest thing that I saw recently. We're talking about impeached, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
resigned. Did he resign? Yeah.
Well, or forced out, whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
impeached
by the same person that's now the governor is behind all this. That helped motivate that. And if it tells you how crazy the structure is there in Albany, the current governor, her lieutenant governor, is leaving her.
Really?
Delgado. Yeah. So.
Yikes. What's he done? Where's he going?
I don't know. I think he's going to make a run for governor. Is what he's going to do.
Okay.
Against her. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that seems like a good. All of the people that work closest with you are trying to oust you. That's that's just a good system.
Man.
And here we are again, like I said.
That sounds like corruption, yeah.
Yeah.
It happened with Mr. Cuomo. Mm-hmm. Now it's happening.
Yeah, what comes around goes around, kind of.
It's crazy, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That is something that I did want to get into also, talking a little bit more about the, Mayor Adams, what's going on down there, what a mess the city is, and it seems like he's changing his tune a bit. Interesting how that worked right around election time.
Yeah. I'm even scratching my head in that one. I'll be honest with you. I'm scratching my head,
Did you watch the correspondence dinner? Where President Trump was kind of like, I don't like what they did to you, Mayor. I don't like that. They came after you. I didn't like that. And then almost like soon after that, it was kind of like he's been 180ing a little bit, which puts him right in the old bullseye for, being ousted. It's amazing. It's crazy to watch politics work.
It is.
I have no desire to be in that. It's quite a business.
Yeah.
Okay, so just back to the prison things. Is there something to COs not being allowed to strike? Is this was kind of part of it?
There's a terror law, just like police officers can't strike. This, New York State police can't strike, and we understand that. We get it. Mm-hmm. But I'll say this: when that law is put into effect to keep us on guard, to protect everyone, and but then again, we also have a system where we're supposed to have our voices heard, and the representatives are supposed to listen to us, and then hopefully work with us to solve any situations that come up.
Yep.
These poor guys have had nothing. Mr. Montesula doesn't want to talk to him. Doesn't want to listen to him. The governor doesn't want to. Commissioner Bray is just thumbing her. It's wrong. None of them are listening to him. What do you think these men and women are going to do? 36 hours on a shift, 24 hours. Don't see their families for like 6-7 days. This isn't the military. Mm-hmm. This is New York State Corrections.
Assaults are through the roof. I mean, it's all the data's here.
And they're forcing these guys against federal laws that only say you can only work so many hours in a work week or a day, right? There's still federal laws. Well, sounds really like the state of New York's breaking those,
Yeah.
So, does two wrongs make a right? No. But we have to take into consideration how desperate that that these men and women were, and this just shows it how desperate they were. So they went ahead and did what they did. They struck.
So the corrections officers in New York State, they have a union that they're a part of. They're not allowed to strike, but the union is supposed to advocate for them on their behalf,
right?
And that's not happening effectively.
I believe that I believe that the union has tried.
Okay.
It's the state of New York.
Who is, you said, Mr. The first name that you listed?
I hope I pronounced correctly. Mr. Montesolo.
Yeah.
He's one of the commissioners.
Okay.
And then there's Commissioner Jackie Bray. She's the Homeland Security. And these are the people that are just they're throwing their thumb to them.
So the union representatives are trying their best, and like New York State is stonewalling them, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Strong arm them.
Yep.
I mean, here's when you come to the bargaining table, you don't want to stop. You want to go as far as you possibly can to keep it in a good manner, to keep it going. And when they don't want to listen, they keep on saying, "Yeah, okay, we heard you," and then they turn around and they take things off the table that they promised. Of course, that leaves a sour taste in somebody's mouth. What gets me is you want guys to go back to work. Now you're threatening the men and women who are out there on strike, taking away their health care. Not just their health care, their family's health care. You're going to fire them. There's been no hearing. Now, I just can't fire somebody willy-nilly. There's a whole process in place.
Right.
And
threatening arrest.
Yeah.
That's the new one, right?
Oh yeah, sending their own other state workers out against them to arrest them. What does that breed?
Yeah. So you mean, is that you're referring to Hochul using state troopers to serve lawsuit papers to corrections officers, threatening them losing their jobs if they don't return to work? Yeah, that was wild.
And some of it is family on family, believe it or not. You got state police serving their own family members. How did that work? It's nuts. But unfortunately, the powers that be in Albany don't give a damn.
Yeah.
They want to exact as much fear and punishment upon them to force them back to work. That's not a good thing to do. Then the problem's already bad now. Now you're going to force a bunch of angry people back into the same environment. Yeah. That's a real smart move, huh?
Yeah. And all this comes down to policy, really.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't every city, every state having the same problems? It's policy decisions. Like, I don't know how much more clear we can make that in today's culture with information wars here and there. Like, look at a policy that works. Why aren't we doing that? It's commonsensical. I know that those words don't make sense to people, but I only just became, it's all over Facebook.
Right.
And there's all kinds of stuff. You made a good statement on there that kind of went a little viral. I don't know. Do you know how many views there are on that?
No.
Yeah, I think it's like well over 500,000 last I checked.
Really?
Wow. You didn't even know.
Okay, no, I did not know that.
You'll have to pull it up to let you know.
Wow.
But
because maybe they'll send somebody to my house next to force me into the prison system work.
You go work some night shifts. I like what you said about the National Guard being it's not their expertise. There's a reason why corrections officers do what they do. It's a very specialized, very specific goal in mind. It's just what they're trained to do. When you bring other people in who are not trained to do that, more recipe for disaster. Why are we doing this? Nobody's willing to come to the table to figure it out.
It's basically like the governor said. She said it because she can. She made that mistake. She can send them. She's going to keep them there. I wish that she could see and hear if she would, and she's not going to do it. We know that, unfortunately. She's so callous to it. I think that's what bewilders most of us, is that I hope I don't take a hit in the chin for this one. The best way I'll say it, not being sexist, but most women have compassion right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Men, we can be a little tougher. We can be like, hey, suck it up. Most women have compassion right away because it's something that's I want to say
it's innate. It's innate. It's the nurturing part of
this lady
for sure
has got ice running through her veins.
Yeah.
I think she has ice through her soul. And how you can be so callous to think that, I saw that she had something where she was around some children, whatever, or maybe it was people from her family. And I'm thinking, well, man, why don't you apply that to the CO's families? Why don't you apply that maybe also to some of the inmates' families where the laws that you made that you thought was going to help them out is harming them? But they don't. it's a political, how do I want to say, sociological idea that they think they have to get across the board, and they push it, they ram it through, and they do it without thinking of the repercussions that'll be coming afterwards. But as long as they got their point of view across, that's all that mattered to them. That's not what a politician should be. That's not what an elected official should be. I don't know. It's frustrating, very frustrating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
To me, you have to be able to inject some humanity into the situation, and it doesn't seem like the state leadership is willing to do that. Like, technically, yes, striking is illegal. Does that mean that the governor's best tactic is to go all over social media and television, blasting what the corrections officers are doing as illegal and basically smearing them as criminals, and they're going to lose their jobs? And this, like, yeah, it's technically illegal, but if you're a human with a brain and a heart, like, you can get on television and you can empathize and understand where they're coming from. Like, what a crime that would be, right? But no. I just don't feel like the state has handled this in a tactful manner, like, whatsoever.
No.
Labeling the corrections officers as their actions as unlawful, which is basically painting them to be criminals, being unwilling to. Last week, it seemed like there was almost a deal on the table last Thursday, which, even from what I've read, the corrections officers weren't super happy about. Like, the union was doing its best to come to some kind of resolution that involved suspending of the HALT Act, various reviews for staffing, increased pay for overtime, and it was almost like a meet the state in the middle kind of thing, and I think that didn't go over super well, but that ended up falling through, I think. And then, the state troopers serving papers to corrections officers, going on television and saying, if you don't go back to work, you will lose your job. Yeah, like, the optics on the whole situation as far as the state goes, like, not good.
No.
Not good. And I you said it before, like, we've almost seen worse, or we've seen as bad before, but I feel like this is it. Like, if this was an election, issue, like, she's done. Like, there's no coming back from this. I mean, there's a magnifying glass on this in New York State, and talk about, like, David versus Goliath. The government and the little man. Like, I don't know, unless some miracle happens where the state opens its heart and gives into every demand, like, I don't know that there's any coming back from this. Right. And maybe this will end up being a good thing.
I guess the National Guard is not the answer. That's for sure. This is going to be a Band-Aid fixture until something goes wrong. What happens when they finally have a prison riot, and none of these National Guardsmen are armed? They're not armed. What do you do then when you have soldiers now that are trapped inside a facility or taken hostage? It's one thing to have correction officers who are trained that when this occurs, they know what to expect.
Didn't that happen north somewhere?
Yeah, it did. Well, that was a rumor. I mean, not a rumor. That was true, yes, but there wasn't a lot of coverage on that. Yeah. And then I think back to myself, and I was very. I mean, you think back to Attica. That's the last time we had a really big uprising there, and look how that ended. But I'll say this: they called in the state troopers to squash that. The state police were the ones that came and took care of that and did that
Which
way.
are also undermanned. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the numbers are, but I know in Connecticut it was like some crazy number. They're so short staffed. Yeah. They were actually considering, because the state police, they have their own academy and they have their own thing. They don't take lateral transfers, and their whole deal. In Connecticut, they were like very close to just taking lateral transfers and then doing a couple weeks course, and that's it, just because they're so short. I think they're 1,300 usually fully staffed, and they were like 800 when I left.
Wow. That's the rumor here that they're looking at doing too, if everything starts to get worse.
Yeah.
Wow. The state's looking at that. That's another option. Now, I'll tell you what the governor did ask of the sheriffs, if you want to hear about this one. This to me is just insane. So, as running a county jail, you can have an inmate up to a year, and then we have to get them off the state prison. Okay. You don't try to hold them any more than that, and that's kind of the rule of thumb and the rule of law too. So basically, we get people who are sentenced to, when they're going to be sentenced to 5 years in prison, they spend time in our local jails getting ready to go to state prison, and that's part of the job of our correction officers are to get these guys, the inmates, ready to, semi get the rules, show them the discipline of what happens and this and that, and get them ready to go. Then you ship them out. She has had the gall to even float the idea and come and speak to some of our representatives, i.e. our lawyers of our associations, that would we take in state inmates back into our jails to help this out? No. Why would I subject my men and women to people who, now they say, well, they're not going to be violent. They're going to try to sentence the ones who are good, the ones that have 6 months or 3 months on the end of their sentence.
Judged by their new criteria.
Yeah.
Which basically is garbage.
I'll revert back to this. We were all in high school once. We hit our senior year. The last few days of senior year, did we listen to our teachers?
No way.
Okay, there's my point. Right? You went from kindergarten to seniors. We're young adults. Senior year comes along. End of the day, we didn't listen to anybody enough today. What do you think these guys are going to do?
Just human nature, normal psychology that you would think would go into the picture of these decisions that just don't.
Yeah. But she's asked this, and a number of us said no. There are some that I think are contemplating it, which I think is absolutely dead wrong. And also offers much as to say, maybe you could make some money from this. We'll name your price. So what we need to have, and we'll do it. No, that's not about the money thing. Stop it. Why don't you sit down at the table with the men and women who are asking for help here? Yeah.
Not to mention, what are these folks going to do that are used to the fluffy amenities that the state now provides them, and then they go to a county jail that has nothing for them? That I imagine that would be a little upsetting and be cause for disruption. And it just doesn't seem like a good idea.
No.
Yeah.
No. And then also remember what's in place too is that the MAT program, the Medication Assistance Treatment Program we spoke about before. So if a state inmate's on it, you got to bring them back in at we'll get reimbursed. I'll believe that when I get my tax return.
Right. Yeah.
Just to go back to Attica Correctional Facility, I guess, what would you call that, riot? Mm-hmm. September 9th, 1971, 1,281 of approximately 2,200 men incarcerated in Attica Correctional Facility rioted and took control of the prison, taking 42 hostages. Whoa.
Yeah.
Where was that in my textbook?
No, I was just a little kid.
Okay.
But I grew up around a couple of troopers that had lived in our neighborhood that told us stories about it. They went in, and it was just something to hear that,
That it can happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know. I'm pretty much an expert. I watched Prison Break a few times. You ever watch Prison Break? Hot take. It gets worse as the seasons go, and it's kind of like, oh, they're in a different prison. Now they got to break out again.
Wonder what's going to happen.
Oh, they're out. Oh, they're caught again. Oh. That video that you posted has 472,000 views.
Really?
It's got a little traction.
Yeah. I was just, that night, like you say, when I did that, I just heard what was going on. And like I said, somebody who I know, pretty close to me, they're inside, they're working in that environment. And when I saw the emotion after talking to that individual about what they felt and what was going on, and their voice is not being heard, I said, I got to do something, anything. I hope that helps get the word out. That's why I did it. That's why I did it. I saw that in that individual's face that night, and listening to them, and I'm like, boy, this isn't what guys should feel.
They're hurting.
When they got the job, they proved themselves they could do the job, but now they're doing everything to demean them, from the job, and it's all for a political agenda. That's the bad thing of it. It's just for a political idea. What idea? I couldn't tell you at this point now because there's nothing makes any sense. Nothing makes any sense except for complete disruption of society.
It's just bad policy.
Yeah.
And the intentions are unknown. Because it can't be, if you do something like this and you're so bad at your job, or you do something that is so catastrophic, you don't keep your job.
Right.
So is that not a consideration? I'm asking the wrong guy. I guess I should have the governor in.
I wonder what the motive is. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, first of all, like, what is the reason that this is happening? Who are they trying to please? Who are they appeasing?
Right.
And because I have The lives of the inmates matter.
Yes.
But if we're being honest, what incentive does the governor have to pander to the interests of the inmates? Like, I am highly suspicious that these very select few people at the top are doing this for the reason that they're claiming, which is to improve the lives of inmates because they're human too. Absolutely right. Mm-hmm. They are human too, and they deserve quality treatment while they serve their time. No one would in their right mind would argue against that. But I just don't understand what incentive they have. I don't believe them when they're saying they're trying to protect the lives of the inmates. No. I don't believe them. And it makes me wonder why. Why are they doing this? Who are they pandering to? Who are they trying to appease? Who paid them? What is the reason they're spending so much time on this very niche issue when there are larger things to attack? That, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, are better voting issues.
Right.
How many people are they swaying over to their Democratic side by going out, trying to protect inmates' rights, which in reality they're making things worse. I don't understand this as a voting issue. Not that everything they do needs to be a voting issue. I think that good can be done once you get in government, but that's kind of what they focus on is voting issues. But this doesn't seem like a very productive voting issue.
It's not a winning
Makes
issue.
me wonder who are they working for?
Right.
Like, where is this coming from? Why are they focusing on this? On this, now it's a huge issue, but before it was a small issue until they made it a big issue. Right. Now it's a huge issue for Republicans. Any Republican wants to run for governor, they've almost done themselves in that. And now it's a huge issue. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why it's happening. No. It's confusing to me.
And like you said, you're right. The inmates do deserve to be treated as the protection, as anybody else would be. You're just not going to get all the. As you say, the extra television hours.
Yeah, you don't need an iPad. You don't need an iPad.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an issue, for your up and coming governor's race, no doubt about it. It's going to have to end eventually. I mean, we all know that it's going to come to a closing. But what's going to be the catalyst? The final catalyst that's going to make it end, and is it going to be a good ending? Right now it's not looking too promising, right?
Yeah. This reminds me of during COVID when after. Was it 21 or 22 when they were like, all right, nurses, if you don't get vaccinated, you're fired. It's like, this is the same feeling to me.
There you go.
And I'm just like, what are you guys doing?
Can I, yeah, that's a good point. And let's explore that. But first, I want to make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself. Were the conditions of prisons, was the system working well before?
No, it wasn't working well. I mean, it was okay,
Did it require this level of intervention?
No. This most of our problem with this whole prison thing falls right back to Rikers Island, and down in New York City. And there's been a lot of problems on Rikers Island. It's the buildings itself, the whole place is deteriorating. It's been neglected again by the people in charge of not the correction officers, but by the people in charge to keep it up, to keep it in good standard operations. And then, if it falls upon, again, you're putting some of the worst of the worst right into Rikers. And then you're also overworking those correction officers. Mm-hmm. And things start to fall apart. There were a couple of instances that came out of there as to why there's some new legislation, too, And that's what has been the egg that hatched, to create all this trouble going outward. Yeah.
That's one prison. As far as the other prisons scattered all throughout upstate New York, before 2022, would you say that the New York State prison system was functioning fairly and well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
again, why? Huh?
Not the hill to die on, and it definitely has that feel of. You just made an issue out of nothing, is what it seems like. Like the get vaccinated or get out of here. Oh man!
In an essential working environment,
right?
Nobody can just step in and be a nurse, or a corrections officer
in a vital field. Yeah.
Exactly, in a life or death type of field.
Yeah.
A high intensive care type of field. You can't just bring Sally off the street to be a nurse.
Yeah, you ostracized your workforce, and then you're surprised when they quit, and now you've got a crisis on your hands. It's like very
was basically developed from you.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very parallel situations. Yeah,
and even if all of the other politics aside around COVID, even if your intentions are good, which that is a very nice way to put it, it's not a good policy decision. It's just not. It's a losing issue, and it's just the hill they want to die on, and I don't understand it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess the hope is that within it's already been 2 weeks.
Yes,
2 weeks.
Yep.
A few times there was hope for resolution, and each time it's fallen through. Hopefully today or tomorrow, there's news of a resolution, and hopefully that involves the state giving some consideration to the needs of the corrections officers, because there are lives at stake. How many 32-hour shifts can you work before, you start looking at life expectancy issues? You know what I mean?
Quality of life, family life.
Yeah, I mean, health issues.
Abuse.
Yeah.
Right.
The state has to give. Objectively speaking, the state needs to give on some of these issues. Whether you agree, no matter politically how you feel, some of these are objective human rights issues. To force people to work 24-hour shifts, mandatory overtime, and threaten them with firing them if they don't. This is a human rights issue. So regardless of whether you are Democrat, Republican, whatever, there needs to be some concession on the part of the state, and hopefully that happens soon.
Exactly, Nick, what you're saying. Look at the hypocrisy of this. I mean, how long is our Senate convene on the state level when they're in session?
Oh man, Nick, how long, Nick?
Not long,
right? And then they expect these corrections guys to work 36 hours in one day.
Unbelievable.
You can't even get a bunch of senators to sit in a room and
make a vote. Or
thank you.
Talk about an issue.
That's the hypocrisy of it.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
People need to treat these kinds of situations pretty seriously because they have downstream effects that will affect you personally in some way, some manner. Local politics, even like we were talking about, getting from the higher level facilities into local county jails, that matters. And so people need to be aware of it. And hopefully there's a heart change, but
has to be a heart.
Did you see yesterday the little press conference that like you said, that the governor's staffing, they brought out Commissioner Bray and Mr. Martasulo, and they did a press conference yesterday. All you heard was, you didn't hear anything about, it was, you're going to go back, you're going to do this, you're going to get fired, we're going to pull your health insurance. It was all threats to the correction officers, and kept reminding the correction officers that this was what they had to do. How about reminding your politicians? Why are they not right now holding a special session and saying, let's look at this HALT Act. Let's get together right now. Let's on both sides condemn the HALT Act, get rid of it, and say, what can we do to avoid this situation again? What needs to be done? And let's listen to the right guys this time, the right people. Not the other side that wanted this ridiculous lessening of structure, rules, and framework. You take that all out of the equation, everything falls apart. And that's just what they got. That's just what they have.
Yeah. So there hasn't been any kind of emergency legislative meeting to address this issue?
Not whatsoever. She has just continued to hammer down,
Yeah.
Taking that train and going right into the tunnel with, no light.
It's just, basically, screaming, we're not taking any of this seriously.
Or just drawing a hard line and saying we're not going to negotiate with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird
position to take.
Somebody in the legislative arena needs to kind of spearhead this and get people in a room and get discussing. Yeah. But it really makes you feel like the government's kind of left you out to dry.
They have, unfortunately, they have.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Well, now that we've gotten all of the hard stuff out of the way, maybe we can lighten it up a little bit. I wanted to ask you real quick, one of the snowiest places in the country this year. this is a totally different side note, but interested to know what kind of constraints that puts on like a sheriff's department. Because now, not only are you doing all of your regular stuff, now you're ramping up your snowmobile,
right,
operations and all that kind of stuff, and accidents as far as snowmobiles are concerned. Is that something that draws away from like just your daily mission?
No. I mean, well, I'll tell you what. I just say yes when the snowstorm comes, traffic wise, right. Trying to balance calls for public service, and calls for accidents, and things like that. Yeah, then it does put a strain on the resources big time. And again, I've campaigned on this. When I ran the first time, was manpower for the Lewis County Sheriff's Office. We have not gotten that yet. We've gotten we've grown in some areas where we knew there was no fighting, that you had to do it like when I made the narcotics unit. Had to have that. We had all the overdoses going on, some of the deaths. I was like, what are we doing? Why are we not being? We got to be reactive. You need help. So we took people from the road and people from a sergeant off the road, and we made the narcotics unit. We had to do it. We never got that backfilled. We got it filled with just enough to keep it. We were at status quo, but not more.
Okay.
More. So back to where we're going with this. So where we're going with this project is that. At the most, you have maybe 3 deputies on the road on a big time day like that. Three for the whole county.
Wow.
The troopers, 2. That's all they have. 2 troopers. That's it.
How many square miles?
1,300 square miles.
5 cars, 1,300 square miles.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't relate to that.
Like I said, you get an accident. As you know, being a former law enforcement yourself, if it's a minor accident, one guy can take the information, get it done, get out of there. But you throw into the mix a snowstorm, and now you've got a vehicle either rolled over, blocking the roadway, poor visibility. Now you have to have at least one officer doing traffic, just for safety out of the people that are already there and the officer. You have the other officer gathering information, trying to get the report done. Now a call comes in for domestic. It should be a 2-man call. Now you got one guy going. So now you're reaching on the state police to back them up. Now you pull that trooper to that. Another domestic comes in, or a burglary comes in. And then what do you have? Shortage of people, not enough coverage.
That sounds super stressful.
Delay in getting the services that the people are looking for. As far as response time goes.
Yeah.
So,
and you're doing all this in terrible weather conditions. You're wet. You're like from a realistic standpoint, you're the officer in the field. You're probably soaking wet. You've been out in the snow for 2 hours dealing with this stuff. You're miserable. Yeah, that sounds really stressful. Like your car's you can't keep the snow off your car. You can barely see anywhere you look. Yeah. That sounds like a very stressful day on the job.
I'll tell you, I'll say it all the time. Thank God for the people that we have. We got a lot of good men and women that take it in stride. You live in Lewis County, you're going to get snow. Mm-hmm. You're going to get wet. You're going to run through cow manure. You're going to all those things. Living in Lewis County. And hey, if that's going to be the worst of it, then thankfully that's all you threw at us today.
Very true. Yeah.
So I praise our people for doing that. But yeah, it definitely puts the stresses on. And then on top of that, of course they want us out there doing a snowmobile patrol.
Yeah.
So you pull guys off other things and put them on the snowmobiles out there, which this year has been great. It's been really good. And I got to comment on this because I know in the past I've been criticized for when we had all kinds of snowmobile accidents, and they were like, well, why is all this happening? Well, because people refuse to slow down. And also, there was the least amount of snow in one area, and everybody came there. This year, we had snow, all across the state of New York.
That's interesting, yeah.
And we have less accidents.
Yeah. That's funny that you said that because we went riding, actually, this week already. And my brother had said, we were just kind of talking about trail conditions and how great, the snow has been and all that. And he said, well, it hasn't been that busy. And I was like, that's surprising to me. And he's like, yeah, but everybody has snow.
Right.
Rochester, Buffalo, the whole way up. Yeah. Old Forge, they're probably busy. And that makes sense. That's so where I was going with this, and you guys hang with me because that was a big left turn we took there. My brain works like that sometimes.
That's all right.
Staffing issues is kind of what I was trying to put those together with. Are you guys having similar staffing issues as the prisons are?
I'll say, luckily, no. Could we always? Yes. I mean, could we always have more? Yeah, we could. But we have part-time correctional officers too that we can call in, when they're available to help us out. We're doing pretty well right now in our jail. Our men and women are doing a great job. are times where they're either cancel a vacation if you have to, or pull somebody off of something that they're on, a day off, whatever. Yes, it does happen sometimes, but we are nowhere near what the New York State is up against. We're like I say, we're doing okay. We're doing all right, and I like that. Not just okay, we're doing good.
What do you have? Can you attribute that success to anything specific?
The success of it?
Yeah, just like how well it's going compared to the rest of the state.
I have to say it's how I treat our people. You try to meet their needs. I mean, it's important. Number one, listen, I like you said, I agree with you as far as taking care of the inmates. Yes, but you have to have good people taking care of them. Then they get treated well. If you don't have good people taking care of them, the inmates aren't going to get treated well. Mm-hmm. So I will do whatever I can to keep our people happy. I'm not going to let them, like you say, run through the candy store with an open wallet. And just like that. No, it's not going to happen. But we're going to make it as the environment as best we can. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to get them the time off when we can, as best we can, and we've achieved that so far. But we also have a heck of a dedication to that office. Mm-hmm. The men and women are dedicated to each other. They back each other up, and it's a great thing to see that. I'm blessed that way. I'm darn lucky. I'll say it all the time. And same thing with my road patrol. My road patrol guys are stretched thin, very thin, and they go out and do the job every day without telling me, hey, we're striking. Or getting to that. They don't do that. They're always trying to find a way to make it work, not to go up against the administration. I appreciate that from them. Right now, they're in the middle of contract negotiations. I hope it goes their way. They deserve it. They definitely deserve it. But we need more manpower. We need more manpower on the road. That's a given.
Yeah. That's one thing that we've talked about quite a few times here on this podcast is management styles and how effective management can have a huge effect on everything in the workplace. And so, yeah, I love hearing that, sounds like thanks to the quality style of management, things go well there.
I've got like I say, good people around me, Mm-hmm. Everybody knows I tend to have a sense of humor when I can. I believe that's important. You can take something serious and do it right, but you've got to find the humor in it too, right? I mean, I think Brock gets that when I'm coming from as a police officer.
Oh yeah,
we got to find the humor in it too.
Yep.
So, that's important to me. And like I said, I have good second in commands there that that do a good job. So,
cool.
Yeah, it seems like delegating to good people. How do you insulate yourself with good people that are of like-minded attitude in leadership?
Communication. Communication is a big thing. Listen. People are going to say, well, that's funny hearing Carpinelli's always talking. But no. I do listen, believe it or not. Yes, I listen. and I regard that highly. I heard somebody else's opinion, somebody's outlook on something that may, what could be done better. You got to take that into consideration. You just can't think that you know it all. And you can't have the attitude that, well, I've been on this earth for, 50 years, been doing a job, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, when you start getting like that, you better leave, or step aside because you're about to get punched in the nose with something you didn't see coming. So
yeah. Humility sounds like then.
Humility is a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it turns out.
It's refreshing to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have all the answers. Mm-hmm. Do you feel the amount, like Nick was just saying, it sounds stressful when all that stuff's going on and maybe you don't have the resources that you need or calls get busy and then of course people complain about response times or who knows, whatever reason.
Right.
Does that
car's been sitting there for too long. Did you know that? Is he sleeping in there?
Yeah.
How many times a year do you get that phone call?
Yeah. Seeing three guys gathered down at Stewart's having coffee.
Yeah,
well, that's great. That's good. That place won't get robbed right now. It's the safest place. You go and get gas and coffee. It's the safest place. You're good.
That's kind of refreshing to hear because there are a lot of administrators who would crack down on that have those toxic environments are everywhere. But you can definitely have that in law enforcement too. Guys are watching their computers to see where their guys are GPS is all the time.
That's not where you hold the line, right?
Yeah,
you could hire better if that's what you're doing. Find quality. Like you shouldn't be, hiring people that do that, not having effective training, so that you're devolved. Your job is devolved into watching the teletraining, whatever it's called.
You said one word there. The training, and I got to say real quick. That's one thing that we're big on up there. And if we have the funding, man, we're sending anybody any training they want. The more knowledge, the better. The more that they feel that they can contribute, go out and learn something, bring it back, and expand upon it. Fantastic, let's do it. So that to me, training is important. And I believe if you ask many of our men and women, they'll tell you, oh yeah, he'll send us what we can when we need it to. Because what does it do? It just makes them better for the protection of the people that they're working for. So,
yeah, that's
very nice.
Pretty well said. What do you do for fun?
Oh, let me see.
Nothing. I'm just in my office always.
No. I say, you know what's funny? I love to drive. I enjoy driving. I get to drive back and forth to work. It takes me about anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour to get back and forth to my residence. I love stopping and talking to people. And like I said, I do like humor. I mean, I do have. We do have some fun at that office. I'll tell you that. We have some fun once in a while. And when I retire, I'll tell you more about it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's important. It's important to keep that alive, knowing what you love, and making sure that you're not over serious all the time. I agree, especially in a job like that.
Yeah,
Stuff
there's
you
a time
guys
and a
see.
place.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
Nick, what else you got?
Yeah, I thank you for coming in and kind of highlighting the issue with the prison strike, the corrections officer strike rather. So that was mostly what I wanted to do. I felt it was important to capture the moment, and when the iron's hot, get your finger on the pulse, and people can. I hope that a lot of people tune into this because we got this in a timely manner. We didn't get to do it last week, and I was nervous. Sorry
about that.
That's okay.
You guys, but
Yeah, no problem.
No.
I was nervous that it's going to sound terrible that they would come to a deal and the time would pass and we'd be late on the issue. So thank goodness that hasn't happened. No, not
You're
really.
Here to hear. Nick's very happy that there's no agreement.
It's Brock again, the humor in law enforcement.
There you go.
There you go. Guys, there you go. It's good.
Not really, but yeah, it's still very much an issue. So thank you for taking time on short notice out of your schedule to.
I wish I could tell you more. I don't want to expound too much more because, like you say, they are in negotiations, and on the correction officer side, it would not be fair of me to expound a little more on things because they're using that to hopefully that they can leverage with the governor and things. But it's a serious situation. It's very serious.
Yeah.
And it's impacting not only the inmates' lives, the inmates' families, and the correction officers. It's impacting their families, and that's the hardest thing that I have that I look at and listen to. I get messages all the time from the wives. My daughter now is graduated and stuff. At 19 years old, she's getting people that has friends that their families in corrections, and they call and talk to her, and it's heartbreaking to hear of some of the things that's going on, and. Another thing I throw out there real quick too. I don't know if you realize or not, but she has just forced back people who are on workers' comp. They're out on an injury, and she's forced them in, taken away. Doesn't care what the doctor says. You're coming in. People that were on FMLA on the Family Medical Leave Act, pull them back in. They just had their kids, and they're bringing them back in, forcing them in, or threatening them that if you don't, we'll take your health insurance. Now you imagine what that's like for a new family. They got a newborn baby, and those bills coming in after the birth. I mean, come on. Of course they're going to go back to work.
Yeah.
But they also had the same people that passed that Family Medical Leave Act that pushed that are now taking it from them. Makes no sense, does it?
Yeah.
Again, back to the thing.
Yep.
Why? What sense does it make?
Yeah. Sidebar: health insurance. It should be illegal to use health insurance, employer provided health insurance, as a negotiating tactic.
Oh yeah,
that should be illegal. Yep,
but they do. We know that.
Yeah.
They give the guys a raise on one side, then after they get their raise, they say, "Oh, by the way, you get to pay more for your health insurance." There goes the raise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's a whole different ball of wax. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yep.
And until there's that human element kind of restored to it's kind of the definition of governing is the opposite of what's being done.
100% right. Very well said. Yeah.
Yep. This is more compulsion, and can't be a good long-term solution.
No.
So I'm interested to see kind of what happens with all of this. I really appreciate your view on all this. Like you say that you weren't able to, kind of give a lot of details and stuff like that, but I feel like I'm way more informed now on the issue. Having an expert come in and talk so well about the backstory too, that's important. Most people don't get that. Most people don't understand what led up to something, which is usually pretty important. And the context matters, and just a kind of down a level, level-headed approach is really something that we need. So, what else is new for you? Like, are you like, what's next?
I don't know. I know. Some people are asking, am I going to run for something else? Not. I don't have any plans at all. No. Yep. I went through it once. I learned what it was like. I'm glad that I did it, but I have to. I have to admit strongly now that as long as New York City has any kind of control in our politics, it is damn near impossible for us to make a complete win. It would take a moderate. It can't be a Republican and it can't be a Democrat. It's going to be a very close moderate that could ever unseat what they have. What they have there now. You would think that things are bad. Somebody could beat her. Listen, I'll say this: as close as Lee Zeldin got, he was still short. 100,000, 93,000 votes. I think is what it was, right?
Yeah.
He still lost. And still 100,000 people that thought the other side had a great idea still so far, and they won again. Until we beat that mentality, or they see it in a different way, or they finally go, this isn't working for me. I mean, it's okay for me, but that's not what it's about. We're supposed to be all together in a way that we can all share in it in a good way. Until we change that mindset, it's just not going to happen. So maybe at the start at a smaller level and work your way up, pushing up. Hopefully.
Yeah. So. I think it's important also to have these conversations and to make sure that we get them out there kind of unfettered. It's hard to get good information in today's media. It just is. Everybody's trying to kind of have their tilt on something or their view on something to skew how you think. And so the more that we can have these conversations and, your open invitation, always welcome.
Well,
and we love having you. So,
well, I thank you guys. I'll tell you something. When I came on the first time, and then I got to watch, got to listen to it. I was really pleased, and I always love the way you guys ask questions. You're very open and honest with it. You don't come to the table with bias right off the bat like that. You haven't again this time either, and I enjoy that. And yet you can still have your thoughts and opinions and respect each other sitting here. Like you said, we don't have to agree on everything, as long as we agree on the basic fundamental parts that give us the right to disagree on top. That's what it's about. So, and I enjoy that with you guys. It's just a good thing. So, and I see when the public watches that, they feel pretty informed by what you guys, how your interviews go. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
And if there's anything you want to come on for, who knows in the future, whatever it holds for you, you let us know.
You guys. No, thank you.
But absolute pleasure. I know Nick feels the same. Yeah.
Yep. 100% appreciate it. I'll see you, Nick, for my avocado bagel soon too. So.
Right.
I love that.
Awesome.
Thanks for the plug.
Plug PB&J Cafe quick.
I didn't say that. That's right. You did, bro.
I've always got it. Nick got his money's worth. Awesome. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys a lot. Appreciate it again. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Open invitation. Thanks. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.